I'm going to the Savannah Bananas baseball game. They're playing.
I thought you were going to say bar. I'm like, dude.
They're playing the Macon Bacon.
Be careful. That sounds a lot like Ugly Tuna Saloon.
Yeah, right. All right. The Savannah Bananas are playing the Macon Bacon.
Okay.
In the playoffs. They have their own league down here. Is that the funniest thing ever? And they're like this angry banana with a baseball bat, and the bacon is the same thing. It's like an angry piece of bacon. Hysterical.
All you need is peanut butter and fucking Elvis would be.
Right. Welcome to the podcast that explores mysterious disappearances, bizarre worldly occurrences, strange phenomenon, and basically everything that's weird. Welcome to the podcast, everything that's weird. We are your hosts, Anthony and Brandon, and tonight we are talking about, well, it's called the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter.
Yeah, Hillbillies versus aliens.
That's exactly what we're talking about. Hillbillies versus aliens.
That's right.
So you have to understand. So we're from the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
We're a northern state.
Yeah.
Okay. But we're very close to that Mason-Dixon line, right?
Yeah.
We could very easily have fought for the South.
Yeah.
In fact, I think some of the people we went to school with still are trying to fight for the South.
Yeah.
It's an interesting place. So,
yeah. And
tell
I
us
got
about
a few
it.
gems about Hopkinsville because I started looking into this story, and a couple little odd things kept popping up about this town. Now, the town, you're comparing it to our town. So this town, Hopkinsville, even though it doesn't seem like it when you're looking through these photos of the place, or even if you go to their website, it's reasonably bigger than where we're from.
Is that true?
It's like 31 square miles, and where we're from is only 5.3 square miles. So their population is much higher than ours. They're
really?
Yeah, 30,680, and ours is only 11,896. Now our density is much higher.
Okay, so it's more of a spread out place.
Yes. So our density is much, much higher. It's like 2,200 people a square mile, and to theirs is 963 people a square mile. So we're relatively dense compared to them. They're a bigger area, but they got a lot more people. And here's something I found interesting. Right now, today, Hopkinsville has one of the lowest age averages. Their average age in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, right now, the average age is like 28.
Why is that?
Well, what I understand is that a lot of people from Hopkinsville had moved just down to Tennessee because was Nashville's right there. Okay. And they moved down there to the city and did things like or up north and went to college, and then once they got their education and they're living in the city, they kind of meandered back and started doing stuff like small businesses. Now there's a military base. I think it's close.
And this is like southwestern Kentucky, right?
Yeah. Well, it's the western side of Kentucky, and it gets.
And I guess that would be would be right north of Nashville, I guess, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So I think it was like a lot of people just kind of meandered back to their hometown, and started opening little businesses and boutiques and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it does have a checkered past,
It does.
They have a checkered past. They have a lot of stuff that pays tribute to different various things like slavery and
it's Kentucky.
Taking everything. So there's a lot of guilt there.
Yeah.
So
rightfully so.
Yeah, because apparently they got a pretty famous walking trail.
Oh, God damn it.
It's the Trail of Tears. Right through the place. Yes.
Native Americans.
Yep, they marched them right through Hopkinsville. And there's actually was like 2 famous Cherokee chiefs that died that were commemorated there. So
really?
Yeah. That died on the Trail of Tears, sadly. So, and then they got a pretty unique resident, couple unique residents just up the road. Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederacy, was born just about 15 minutes up the road. So,
do you remember? And this used to happen all the time when we were like in junior high. People would bring Confederate money to school. They would go like on vacation to like wherever, Gatlinburg or whatever.
Yeah.
And they would buy Confederate money.
So weird.
Isn't it weird? It's bizarre.
It's odd.
I think there's an Andy Griffith about that's been buried. But it was, they had savings bonds, and the guy held on to these savings bonds forever. He was like poor. And here they're like, oh, you're a millionaire. And here has found out they were like Confederate savings bonds.
That's a heartbreaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, so the Trail of Tears ran through there, huh?
Yeah, Trail of Tears ran through there. Jefferson Davis was born right up the road. Now they had a group in the early 1900s too. That was the Silent Brigade, they were called, and because they had a lot of tobacco there, and the monopolization of the tobacco market forced their farmers to take ridiculously low prices. So the Silent Brigade was born because farmers were still selling under the, secretly when they were telling them that, hey, don't sell to this company, we'll hold out on them. So
okay.
And they kind of took on that. They weren't the Ku Klux Klan. It was like but that mentality, like, if they don't do it, we're going to scare the shit out of them until they do. So there was these night riders. At one point in the early 1900s, like 250 masked people took over the police station, shut down all access from the outside world, and like took over the city. So it was kind of a big deal. And it was all about tobacco sales. So, and they also have another famous resident who's buried in their cemetery, the psychic Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet.
Really?
Swear, he's buried in their town.
That kind of doesn't surprise me, though, right?
So here's your supernatural. So,
but that area of the country. And then maybe this plays into the story a little bit, but it's sort of shut off, especially in 1955.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're not really Hillbilly Elegy, right, which is a great movie, by the way.
Yeah.
But like this area, which is maybe a couple hours south of where we're from, is that.
Yeah.
This is deep in the holler, as they call it, which I don't know exactly what a holler is. Does that mean it's a holler away? Or it's like a hollow,
I think
it's like hillbilly? Like, what does that mean?
I think it's a description of like land formation.
Okay. So that means like a gully.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, don't quote me. But
okay, so there's
I can't find that. I was looking. I was gonna try and pull something up, but it's weird. Like a holler is a place where the sun comes up late and sets early. Okay. So it's a valley.
It's a valley. Okay. Yeah. All right. So this story. Okay, there is a timeline, but it's a little disputed between who said what, when, but it's not the facts aren't disputed. It's more like who was where.
Right.
Okay. So there's a lot of 3 named people.
As there always is in the South.
Right. So I guess it starts with...
You got to talk about the matriarch, which is Glennie Lackford. She was the owner of the farmhouse.
Right. Okay, so... All right, maybe it's easier just to say what happened. They show up at the police station, and they said they've been in a shootout with aliens for 4 hours.
Yes, panic. They're all scared to death.
They're out of their mind.
Yes.
Now, a lot of people attributed this to alcohol, but they swear that this isn't an alcohol-induced thing. Now, I will say... I have had white lightning. Oh my God, if you're ever gonna hallucinate,
right? Or go blind.
Or go blind. But I've never seen anything like what they saw.
Right.
And so Billy Ray Taylor is at the well. And he tells his friend Elmer Lucky Sutton.
Yeah, well, Billy Ray Taylor was Elmer Lucky Sutton, who's the son of Glennie Langford. Those guys, him and his wife, and Billy Ray and his wife, worked for the carnival, and they were visiting. So Elmer's the son of the homeowner, and his nickname was Lucky, and Billy Ray's his buddy.
As a general rule, you don't take Carney's word for fact, but
is this ride safe? Yep.
But he tells him he saw a flying saucer, and it sort of had like a rainbow exhaust, and he kind of lost sight of it over the holler or gully, right?
Yeah, and they laughed at him.
But there's a bunch of people. So Glennie's there. O.P. Barker.
Yep.
Lucky Sutton, Vera Sutton, John Charlie Sutton.
Yep. And
their 3 children. And nobody really...
Glennie's 3 children. She had 2 marriages. The first marriage was... gave her the sons J.C. Sutton and Elmer Lucky Sutton.
Okay, right.
And J.C.
So it's a little hard to keep track of all.
It is. J.C. Sutton and Aileen, his wife, lived on the farm. He ran the farm for his mom.
And they're like, you're high. There's no alien.
Right.
Right? They don't believe him at all.
Yeah.
And then the dog starts barking.
They're going crazy.
So man, when you live out in the middle of nowhere, and you can attest to this, because we both had houses out in the middle of nowhere. When animals start going crazy, something's up. Because they're used to very chill atmosphere, so when the dog goes nuts, they kind of pay attention. Plus, it's the 50s. I mean, is there even 3 channels at this point?
I don't think so.
Right? There's
well, they didn't even have a radio.
Okay. Well,
they didn't have a TV or
they're
a
not
radio.
even watching TV. And there's definitely no cable. So they see the Sutton kids see this UFO. And then it's like, okay, there is a UFO. And they see that there's people inside the UFO or aliens. They call it a small man, about 3.5 feet tall.
Yeah.
So, they said they have large round heads. They said their eyes were glowing with fire. I don't know what that is, but they have long, thin arms, disproportionate to their body. And so they're kind of wigged out. So they do what and they grab their shotguns.
Yeah. You shoot first and let God sort out the rest.
Right. Very hands-on approach to protecting your farm.
Well, this is what helps out the credence of the story is when you have this family going into the police station. That's kind of a big deal because we take care of our own kind of people before we go talk to the police.
Exactly.
So they're not going to go run into the police unless they're legit scared.
So okay, so they have like it's a typical like Kentucky house. It's got like an overhang. It's not really a lean-to. It's more like a porch, right?
Yeah. Well, there's like a little shed roof over the door, over the back door.
Okay. So, all right, that was hard to understand. I thought it was more like a porch area, but anyway, whatever.
No, I saw there's a picture of it, and they actually have Billy Ray and Lucky standing outside of it because they were kind of showing he's holding the shotgun still in his hand, and they're looking up at the little porch roof, and it's just a tiny little overhang that hangs over the door.
So, okay, they see it, they immediately shoot at it because, like, what else are you gonna do, right?
Right, you gotta shoot it.
And it's kind of playing with them. It peeks in and they shoot at it. Right.
Yeah, they saw multiple of them, but never more than 2 at any given point.
Right. So they immediately like run outside. So that movie Signs with that M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
All right. The alien hops on the roof. That's exactly what happens. Is that right?
Yeah, it actually reached down and grabbed his head.
And that wigs him out.
Yeah, they his wife pulled him back into the door. And then Lucky starts shooting at it. But this has happened a couple times. Like they keep popping up and they fire shots at it, and it does what they call a flip. It flips back and they hear a metallic pang, and it flips back and then it disappears, and then it reappears somewhere else. So, and they said the locomotion on it was really weird. Like, it had this kind of waddle back and forth at the hips. It never really touched the ground. Its legs didn't really bend, and it when it was taking off, it would go onto all fours and kind of do this monkey-like across the ground run on all fours.
But even at this time, they keep shooting at it, and the older people in the house are like, "Yeah, you guys, there's no aliens, right?" They really do. They're like, they think that they're playing a prank on them, but this like continues for hours.
Yeah, right? And then they all witness at some point these little creatures, whatever it was.
And so this family that is
good God-fearing people. Glennie Langford many times said she did not allow alcohol in that house.
Right. And the point of that is not to say that they are outlaws or not. It's the point to say is that they're very straight. Even though they don't like involve the police in their life, and they tend to handle matters on their own. Yeah. They're not people that like would just run to the police.
No, these are well-respected people that just think they should handle their own stuff.
So when they go to the police station, the police are like, well, they're genuinely like scared about something.
Yeah.
Like something happened to them. And it's not crazy because another state trooper saw something while he's like out. Like another one, not one of the policemen that's like that they give this report to. Right. Yeah. It's another guy sees things that are going on in this area.
Yeah, he saw 2 streaks of light go across the sky, but he says that they were meteors, but that could just be his way of, analyzing what he saw.
Right. So it's still like this at this point. It's early in the morning. It's like 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And sees one of the creatures.
Yes.
I
actually found her incident report.
Yeah, what does she say?
She said at about 3:30 a.m. I was in my bedroom and I looked out the north window and I saw a small silver shining object about 2.5 feet tall that had its hands on the screen looking in. I called to my sons and they shot at it and it left. I was about 60 feet from it at this time. I did not see it anymore. But she had saw it also earlier when I walked through the hallway, which is located in the middle of the house, and I looked out the back door and I saw a bright silver object about 2.5 feet tall, appearing round. It became excited and I did not look at it long to see if it had any eyes or move. It was about 15 to 20 feet from me and I fell backwards and then was carried into my bedroom. And that's when she was like later on that night, she saw it again in her window.
Oh, all right.
That's it. That's her like almost entire.
Okay.
And that was taken by Charles Kirk.
Straightforward.
From the Air Force.
Okay. So then when this happens, there's all these like private investigators, ufologists, and they don't know for sure, but possibly somebody that was from Project Blue Book.
That came later. There was somebody. It was a couple.
Well, it's like days after.
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, there were serious reports, but nobody could verify that anybody on that official of a capacity was there.
No,
and there was a report made later, but it was because it was requested because they knew they were going to get questioned.
But this is around that time when it was Project Blue Book.
Mm-hmm. No, it definitely was. Project Blue Book definitely got involved, and they made an official statement on this case that it was nothing more than a hoax. But
it brings people.
They sounded like they just like didn't even want to check because what happened. There's a man from the local radio show WHOP Radio.
Right.
His name's Andrew Bud Ledworth.
Mm-hmm.
He interviewed them the next day.
Right.
After it happened. And he took with him the station owner's son, Mike Lackey. And the reason why he took Mike Lackey was so that he had a witness that knew he wasn't coerced in the statement. So he did this interview and he happened to get all the women because the men were gone. And he just interviewed the women at first, and the women gave him information. He had just been reading about the utility of police sketch artists in finding criminals. So he was a bit of an artist and got in his mind, you know what, I'll go over there and also do a sketch. So he drew a sketch from their description with detailed information on it, did an interview with the family, and then broadcast the interview on the radio, and had to come back and pick up Miss Langford and let her listen to it in his car because she didn't own radio. So,
but this brings a ton of people.
Yeah, that right there set it off.
Right. And they had like some no trespassing signs, but like then there's like hot dog stands and like it becomes sort of a carnival.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that drew the eye. That's a lot of people were getting mad because they said at first it said no trespassing, and then it said here this much for photos and this much for a tour and blah blah blah. And they were like, hey, they did this for publicity, but you never know. It might have been just like, hey, if you're going to come back here, you got to pay, because people were just grabbing shit.
Right.
People were just taking souvenirs.
And it was during that time when like UFOs were
War of the Worlds. That was
like it's like it's becoming part of pop culture, so like people talk about but like people kind of think that it's a hoax. because now they're like kind of charging to take pictures or like
Mm-hmm.
be part of it.
But doesn't last long.
No, because then there's like another person that actually does like he thinks that the story is like a real story.
Mm-hmm.
And then they with Isabel Davis, like an investigator from like New York City.
Mm-hmm.
So Project Blue Book comes back. This is a couple years goes by. Project Blue Book comes back to do it again, and at this point, they think that there's really no evidence that anything ever happened. And it's Major John E. Alpert. But he suggests that it's a monkey painted silver, which is the best explanation ever. I mean,
because that happens.
Why isn't there a monkey painted silver? I want a monkey painted silver.
I mean, I thought I had aliens and it was just silver monkeys, but
so and then it like Isabel Davis and a guy named Ted Blesher, they published a book on humanoid UFO entities or like aliens, close encounters, and a lot of it has to do with this case. And that's kind of where it's at right now.
Yeah, there's so many books, and articles.
Well, there's a movie called Hillbillies versus Aliens, like we said, and I never did see that movie. I wanted to, but is that what it's about?
The Cowboys versus Aliens?
That's what it is. Cowboys versus Aliens. Right?
Yeah, it's not. No.
Because like I think this is a great.
They put some tech on James Bond's arm.
Okay.
The James Bond guy, I can't remember what his name is. And it's like stuck on him, and then
Daniel Craig. Yeah. Yeah, right.
It's out there, but anyway.
So that's what it is. There's a bunch. So there is a shootout with
big time
aliens.
Shootout.
Big time shootout with
4-hour-long shootout.
A family that lives in Kentucky.
That's a lot of ammo. Well, for Kentucky,
right?
Probably a small amount of ammo.
right. A family from Kentucky and some beings from another planet. When people ask you, what do you do for a living? Do you want to be able to tell them I'm a producer? Well, now you can. Go to patreon.com, search everything that's weird, and sign up. We'll list you in all the show notes and mention you in every episode. Go to patreon.com to get started today. All right, so at first, when I first heard this story, I'm like, yeah, you're blind drunk on green alcohol.
Right.
Right.
Immediate thought.
That's the first thing I thought. And then I saw their interviews, and I'm like, yeah, you're definitely blind drunk on green alcohol. But the persistence of what happened, and there's only so when people lie in a group, you get variations in a story, right?
Yes, right.
Unless it's corroborated with everybody and it's pre-planned. It's rare that you get consistent timelines and events.
Right.
Literally,
we discussed eyewitness accounts and how that goes.
Yeah, and like
previous podcast.
It's like a telephone game.
Yeah.
But they are, for them giving their interview, pretty accurate to what each one's saying.
Yeah.
So much that the cops think they're telling the truth. At first, they think they're crazy. But then later, they're like, well, something happened.
Something definitely happened.
And they don't know exactly what it is.
Okay, now, that was the kind of the brilliant move by that radio host, Bud Ledwith, was that he got the description from the women. They helped him come up with the picture and his descriptions on the picture, right? And the men weren't there. When he was sitting in the room with them, the first one back was Billy Ray. Billy Ray came back into the house, and when he walked in the house and saw the drawing on the table, he got like real excited and pointed at it and said, "That's it. That's exactly it." So,
right.
And Bud said he got chills at that point because like the way he reacted to it, like it was like, that's it. I definitely saw that right there. And the girls had described it, not him. So just walking in and not knowing anything and seeing a drawing on the table, kind of, you know what I mean? And then when the rest of the guys came back, he said that Lucky came in and he looked angry and aggressive because he was, he's probably fed up with they had to park down the road. They couldn't even, there were so many cars by that time when they got back. And he goes in, and what happened was this Bud Ledwith took the rest of the guys that were coming back late and took them off into separate rooms and had them describe it to him, and he drew a picture. So he drew like three pictures, and they were all really, really similar. He did it separately. He kind of separated them, you know what I mean? So that they weren't muddling the stories with each other. So, and he didn't see, one saw the picture, and I don't know if the other ones even saw the picture, or if they just saw it at a glance or what, but I'm pretty sure he pulled them off and interviewed them individually and got them to draw their own picture, or help him draw the picture.
Well, I can tell you this about aliens. Those guys are dicks, dude. They're like some alien teenagers, and they're like, "Hey, man, what are we doing tonight?" And they're like, "Well, buy Quasar Burger." Yeah, we could. We could go to Kentucky and mess with some hillbillies. They're like, "Yes." Now we're talking. Let's go mess with some hillbillies. So this is right at the beginning. Well, I say right at the beginning. It's really not. But it's like 8 years after Roswell.
Yeah, right. And it took a lot longer for word to travel back then.
Sure. If they even knew what Roswell was.
Right. Probably didn't.
They
didn't have radio or TV or running water.
Right. And I know word does travel fast. People, at this time were... I think probably the invention of the nuclear bomb is like, whoa, technology.
Right.
And we're just getting, I think at that point, people are like, well, technology is limited. It's awesome.
Yeah. We can make a big boom, but we can't harness any of the power that comes off of it.
But when we do make the atomic bomb, it's like, oh, and they're, so Oak Ridge is pretty close to here. Oak Ridge is about I did a Google search. So it's like about 2.5 hours from this place.
Okay.
So Oak Ridge is a lot like where we grew up. And we're going to be doing a podcast on that coming up. But it's the exact same thing. It's a uranium processing plant.
Right.
And it was used to make refined uranium for nuclear warheads. Okay, so they're aware of nuclear power at this point. So they're aware that easy technology that does make giant booms. It makes bombs that wipe out cities. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think plays a little bit of part of it to take us into like the space age, because I mean this is like pre-Sputnik or any kind of space exploration, or I mean it's 5 years before to put somebody into orbit. I mean,
yeah,
it's 14 years before we put somebody on the moon. So it's like, but I think, and I think like even like Looney Tunes. This is around the time Marvin the Martian. A lot of people thought we were from Mars, or there was like an advanced here.
Yeah.
Noah's Ark is.
We fled Mars to come here. I don't know if I told you, but I did see a UFO one time.
Oh yeah?
And yeah, it's not even a joke. Usually it's followed by a joke. But and I was with my wife, and we were driving, and we were saying how we like where we live. And so she has like her SUV has like it's got like almost the entire roof is a sunroof.
Yeah.
Okay, so like we're kind of like looking up, and I'm driving, so I'm like half my eyes are on the road, half are like looking up, and we're watching the trees pass. And just when we said, this thing did like a zigzag in the sky and took off. So she was a flight attendant, and I'm like, and I've been on a ton of flights. I have a few hours in it, said before,
Right.
but I've never seen anything like that. And I said, "Did you see that?"
Right.
And she said, "Yeah." What was that? What was that?
Right.
She's like, "I don't know." She's like, "Why did it move like that?" It was so fast. It did like a Z. It did like a Z. And it jetted, and it several miles, like in one thing. And it was just because we were looking up at the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of military bases around here, and we didn't get freaked out or go to the cops or call anybody or anything like that. But there was something, and we saw it. And I was always like, "Oh, it's funny how people only see it when and we still don't really even talk about it."
Yeah.
But that was there.
Yeah. So here's the thing from my side. I don't believe I've ever seen a UFO. Now I've seen tons of strange stuff in the skies.
To be clear, I don't know if it was an alien. I just didn't know what it was.
Right.
Go ahead.
Like I don't know if I've ever, because you're talking about a specific maneuver that would make it stand out from the rest of the weird stuff you've seen in the sky.
Right.
So I don't think I've ever seen, like something that I could be like, well, it did something so crazy that it stood out in my mind. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's like only a couple times where something happened, and both of those times I can attribute to other factors. So there's some extracurricular activity going on. So
there was. Okay.
So
story.
But
that's how they all start.
yeah. There's a lot of times where I see stuff happening and I wait for somebody else to point it out just to make sure. But now if you ask my wife and my oldest son, who's 24 now, if you asked those two, they've seen UFOs dozens of times.
Yeah.
And they got like videos on their phone and stuff like that.
So
he even pissed me off one time. I went out and bought like $300 binoculars, and he came over to my house and took them and had them for like a year and a half because he was looking for UFOs. So
I am the first to discount it because I'm like you. I need to see it, and I kind of feel like War II.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I'm super skeptical about the carnival people. Because it's impossible to get that quarter on the plate.
Right.
That is the hardest thing.
Makes me think of Joe Dirt.
Right? Well, heaven forbid you only.
He's spraying Pam on shit.
Yeah, right. But like, there's a few things.
During that time, it's part of pop culture. It's in comic books. People really think there's a possibility of aliens.
Everybody thought there was really aliens
Hey, and
on
let's
Mars.
just, what we didn't mention is that the goddamn government right now is saying that there are aliens.
I know, they're putting out so much shit. We can't, as we talked about it in the one, because it's just like so funny because there's so much dumb shit that's going on right now, and they're like, "Look at all these spaceships," and we're like, "No,
Yeah. I'm not wearing a mask.
We got way more important things, man."
You want me to get a what? A vaccine?
Yeah. Screw you, man. Get the aliens out of my face. I'm trying to talk to this guy about this shot.
But like, legitimately, if the Air Force and the Navy, because they have submerged UFOs, well, they're called USOs, unidentified submerged objects that come out of the sea. And then you have UFOs, like, or UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon, and our state-of-the-art military can't defend us against them. What the hell?
Like, we can't track this thing.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Like, they literally came out and said, if it's not otherworldly, Russia and China are 500 to 1,000 years ahead of us.
Right.
I'm like, neither one of those are good. Like, what?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Not a good
I
outcome.
can't believe that's your explanation. So, like, our own government right now is even, suggesting that this is a possibility. Pop culture's saying this is a possibility. These people say it happened. You have a bunch of credible journalists that really take their time out to go to this place in Kentucky to interview these people. And really,
you can't forget that this when they went into that police station, panicked in the beginning and said, "We just had a 4-hour shootout with aliens." You think people get laughed off the stage, but like you said, the bit of hysteria at the time made them take it serious, and the fact that they were so serious about it that this officer Greenwell, or the sheriff Greenwell, he took it serious. So he started doing all the proper procedures. He started notifying. He notified state police. He notified local military. There was 4 military police officers there, and you had that they put sheriffs and there was state police and there was county police, all converged on the scene, and even some locals had all converged on the scene and they got as much light on the scene as they could, because it's at night. They get as much light on the scene as they can, and they have started investigating like right away. So this isn't like, they left the whole premises and came to the police station, and then they went back with them immediately and started searching the whole area. And they could only find traces of a gunfight. They couldn't find any evidence of anything else being there. So
no green blood.
No green blood, no footprints, but they did say, because if you watch, there's like a Project Blue Book, the show.
Sure.
And there's an episode on there, and they really fantasize the whole deal. Like, and they kind of change whose role was what in the.
But there's no like scratch marks on the roof, right?
Right. There's no claw marks or footprints or.
Yeah, I read
anything.
one of the accounts. They thought it was like maybe an owl.
Well, here's the thing. There's this. They saw the people that were investigating when they went back, kind of where he was pointing, where the UFO may have landed. They went to check that area, and they saw a glow coming from that area. The people that were investigating saw a glow. Now, people attribute that to what's called foxfire, which is a fungus that grows on dead trees that has bioluminescence to it.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that foxfire was a thing.
Yes, and that actually exists in that area.
That's cool.
There's a bioluminescent fungus that grows on dead trees in that area. So
right now that's in Los Angeles in the ocean, but I've seen that in Ecuador. They have it's like
marine algae that's bioluminescent.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, when it gets agitated by the waves, it glows.
It sticks to your skin.
I would love to see it.
You walk in the sand, your footprints glow in the dark. That's awesome. It's the coolest thing ever. Right.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. But yeah, they said that, but they said it was a green glow. No, they didn't identify it as that fungus. People came back in later and said, this is probably what you saw. So, and the other thing, like you said, was these great horned owls. Now, I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a birder.
Are you?
Yes.
An aviary?
I do a lot of bird watching. I used to do a lot more. I don't do as much. I should get back out there, but I used to do a lot of bird watching. This isn't
like a euphemism, is it?
No. No. I'm not setting anything up here. I'm a dork. I get out there and crawl around on all fours and hide in bushes and stuff, man.
So my father-in-law was a big bird guy. Ornithology, is that right?
Yeah, ornithology.
Okay, yeah. So he had there's a artist from where we're from named Charlie Harper. And he paints kind of these I don't know what the style is called. I guess it's surreal. But he paints kind of these they actually at our airport they have a whole Charlie Harper thing, like an exhibit at the gate, and it's nothing but birds, all kinds of birds, toucans, cardinals.
Yeah, there's a few prominent local bird artists and nature artists that have done a lot of work in Cincinnati, and they I got some paintings from my grandma that she passed down to me that were from they were commissioned works from some local artists, and they're worth a bit of money.
So why is that? Do we have the more? Because
we are in a migratory route for a lot of birds.
Because I had a blue heron at my pond in Indiana.
Sure, there's tons of blue heron around here.
I mean, he was every bit of 4 feet tall.
Yeah, they're big.
It was the coolest bird ever.
We get great egrets around here too. A lot of people don't realize that. The big white, they're a little smaller than the blue herring, but it's a big white crane.
So you know what blue herons do? They stand in the water, right? And they're super calm. You know what they do with their toes? They wiggle their toes to attract fish.
Yeah.
And then when the fish are what is that? Because they're standing dead still. They don't move 4 hours.
Yeah.
They just stand there and they're super patient, man. And they wiggle their toes and you'll never see it because it's underwater. And they stand right on the banks and wiggle their toes. When the fish come up, they bam, they snatch them.
Now, here's the thing. I've seen great horned owls in my woods. We can hear great horned owls in my woods. But one day, I was coming home from work, and I pulled into my barn driveway, which once I loop around in front of my barn and I stop, I'm facing my backyard across the back of my house. And my youngest daughter, Renee, was in the backyard, sitting 2 foot away from a great horned owl on the ground.
No shit.
And she was petting its freaking head.
Are you kidding me?
And I thought my mind was broken. This wasn't right. Something's wrong here. There's no way this is happening. So I go across the yard, and sure as shit, there is a great horned owl sitting in the yard. She's sitting right next to it. She's petting it. When I get up that close, he kind of get agitated and he hisses at me. Well,
are you serious?
Yes, and you could see this mark on his head. And because I was trying to put it together because he was lethargic. He looked like he was kind of out of it. There was clearly something wrong with him because a great horned owl wouldn't let you get it. They would let you get close, but they wouldn't be letting you touch them.
And then, okay, just so everybody, that's like the owl that if you were gonna draw an owl,
That's it.
that's it, right?
Yeah, and and they're big. They're really big. I still have photos of this thing. Like I got photos with my daughter sitting in front of it at the time. I think she's right here. How old do you think you were? She thinks she was about maybe 11 or 12. And she's sitting down. She's petite, she's small, but when she was sitting down, this owl was about the same height as her sitting down.
Okay, so I'm looking up the great horned owl right now, and I can say this about when they get their picture taken.
Mm-hmm.
They're super serious.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this thing, hey, and they're no joke. Like their feet and their claws, his claws were so big they curled all the way around and were coming back out. Like it was impressive how long his talons were.
Yeah, and they just eat rats and squirrels and
that's
whatever.
all I was so I've never been that close to that big of a bird, you know. And I could look at him. She was like petting him, and he started coming to. And what we realized was I got a chicken coop. At the time, we had chickens in it.
Did it eat the chickens?
I think he tried to. It's framed out with chicken wire around the whole thing, but the chicken wire is hard to see.
So I had 25 chickens at one point, and like I was never worried about an owl, fox, mink, raccoons.
Yep.
But like
they all killed my chickens too.
Yeah, but like an owl, I never really thought about it. Hawks.
Red tails got my chickens a lot.
Yeah.
We were in the bedroom, walk up to the bedroom window, and just below it on the ground, 2 foot from us, 2 red-tailed hawks, a mature one and a juvenile, on top of my chicken. It's dead, and its back's completely ripped open, and they were both eating it. And they were both 2 foot away from us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but this owl, it would probably fit in the size description that they were saying, about 2 foot tall.
Right.
So it's a big bird, and it does have big yellow eyes.
Hey, sidebar: foxfire is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Huh. All right. Well, let's.
So one of the theories is that it's owls. That it was owls that were territorial.
That's what that was one of the explanations.
And they are very aggressively territorial.
They are.
Mm-hmm.
They're like a hawk.
Yeah. I think this is what happened to that owl that was in the yard with Renee, was that he saw those chickens and tried to attack them, and didn't see the chicken wire and blasted it, and it knocked him for a loop. And it took him a while to recover. Eventually he got up.
And he sat next to your daughter. He's like, well, I feel silly.
Well, after he started kind of coming to, he couldn't fly yet. So he went down the trail that goes back in our field, and he did it in this very hopping, scooting, twisting his hips manner.
He like walked it off.
He was walking. Now I'm saying this because their description was that same kind of locomotion.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if he was wounded by a shotgun, he would run off in that manner. I've physically seen a great horned owl injured run away.
All right.
So I have a little experience in that.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well, then let's see what we think. When people ask you, what do you do for a living? Do you want to be able to tell them I'm a producer? Well, now you can. Go to patreon.com, search everything that's weird, and sign up. We'll list you in all of the show notes and mention you in every episode. Go to patreon.com to get started today. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. Second, there are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. All right, well, do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
Go ahead.
Okay. I believe him.
Okay.
And I don't want to. I'm usually the opposite. I believe and don't.
Mm-hmm.
But in this particular case, something happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe in the possibility of aliens. I honestly think I've always thought that there were aliens.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought that they'd mess around with us. Because why?
Right.
But that seems to be all they do. Right?
Stick things up our butt.
Right?
And wreck.
Right. Now I know they're carnies. I know that this happened in the backwoods of Kentucky. I know that white lightning is 95 to 99% alcohol, and I drink, right? I own a bar.
Mm-hmm.
I drink. I had a Billy neighbor from Missouri that gave me some white lightning.
Yeah.
I took 2 shots and was hungover for 2 days. No lie, 99% alcohol is no joke. Do not just do it like I did. Like, I'll be the judge of that. Yeah.
Give me sipping back on Grandpa's cough syrup.
Yeah, right. You shut up if you know it's good for you.
Right.
What for this story in particular,
Mm-hmm.
what really it's hard to keep that many people's stories straight.
Yeah. It's 11 total people counting the kids.
Right. And then, no matter what it is, when you have that many people telling the same story, you're going to get some deviation, but there was 0 deviation.
Right.
In fact,
it's important that 2 of them weren't even related. So that.
Right. They're just there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think when you go into law enforcement, when you actually go to law enforcement and say, hey man, this happened.
Yeah.
Whereas they may say, yeah, you're crazy or drunk or whatever. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think it's like saying I have a bomb on an airplane.
Right.
You go into a different list.
Right.
And they're like, hey, man, look into this guy. Really find out what... And they do nothing but investigate you because they have endless resources. So, I don't believe that the government doesn't care about this.
Yeah.
I think this poses a gigantic threat to humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to tell us.
Yeah.
That maybe we're not in control, and people, they've been lied to so much that they're like, it's just another lie. And honestly, I kind of think it's a lie too. But at the same time, where did all this technology come from all of a sudden? And I know there's been research and development, and there's physicists that worked on the atomic bomb, but you have to admit, so if you were born between say 1500 and 1900, the technological arc for what happened during that time period isn't really great. I mean, there's some stuff that happened and there's some advances,
Mm-hmm.
but just being our age, and we graduated high school in 95,
Mm-hmm.
and by 2001 if you didn't have a computer, you might as well have been Amish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that was a giant jump. And now, 2001 technology, like, we did SNEA.
Yeah.
And she's talking about, AOL Messenger.
Right.
Dude, that's so old school. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's not that long ago.
And now we have like Austin Powers, James Bond technology where literally you talk to people on your watch.
Right. And if you see some of the concept cars that are out there that because concept cars, the idea is they're always going to show you what their future looks like. Mm-hmm. And they got crazy stuff in some of these new concept cars. Crazy stuff. Some of these cars are completely autonomous.
There's like a YouTube of a guy. He's in the back of a Tesla, and he's laying on the back seat of the Tesla,
which we don't recommend.
We're not saying do this,
right?
But he's filming people when he drives by,
yeah,
and it's just his car with nobody in it.
Yeah,
and everybody's like, "What the fuck?" They pull away from him. And that's a thing now. Now there's like a car that drives you home.
Yeah, and there's a big fear of that too. There's a lot of new phobias out because of this.
So Stephanie, her family friend, owns a Chevy dealership, a big one by our house, and he said they have lane assist.
Yes.
So that is just on a stock, brand new Chevy car. It's not like even an option. It's just a stock thing that comes in the car. It maps out the road with GPS and the paint on the highway or road you're on.
Yeah.
And it keeps you in the lane.
Yeah.
And it can go full autonomous.
Yeah. And my dad, he was looking for he's having like a really late midlife crisis, I think. Yeah. Just like he wants to buy a boat.
He's gonna be 100.
He's never owned a boat.
All right.
He's fucking in his 70s now. He wants to buy a boat, but he doesn't want to buy the boat. He wants me to find the boat.
Okay.
For him to buy.
Okay. Are you gonna get a pontoon?
That's where we're at now.
Yeah. Well, that's
I
the
didn't
party
want
boat.
to. I had cool ass. I like a jet boat
and
stuff like that.
You get 2 level.
Yeah, I know. Right. I know. It is mind numbing doing a search for a boat. Plus, but anyway, the I don't even remember where I was going with this.
Well, I think this happened with them. I think technology took off.
Oh, that's what I was talking about. The one of the boats we went and looked at, and it was out of his price range, but we were looking anyway. You know how you do that. You go to the car dealership and you look at the nicest car they got.
Yeah, you're like, let me see the Lamborghini.
Right. Well, we went up in there. We were looking at this Sea Ray, and it has, all this electronic touchscreen navigation system on it with depth finder and fish finder and all this stuff. But that thing drives itself. Like, you can go out in the open waters and plot courses, and it'll steer itself, and it will avoid. It can sense oncoming ships and everything, and it will change its route to avoid other boats. So you can punch in your
ski behind it.
Oh yeah,
that's pretty awesome. So you can set yourself up to water ski on your own boat by yourself.
Yeah, you would. Essentially, you'd be able to.
That's impressive.
But the thing is, if you fall down, your boat's going to go to whatever destination you set it in, and you're just going to be stuck. Or you'd have to have one of those really long kill cords.
Yeah, I was going to say like a lawnmower when you let go.
Yeah, the Wave Runner's got them on there where it's like a little bungee strap here. So if you fall off the back, which is I don't know if we want to keep this in or not, but I just heard about this and it's blowing my mind. There is incidents where people are on Wave Runners. This has nothing to do with the show. Where the passenger on the back falls off the Wave Runner, and the jet propulsion system on it blows water up their rectum at such a force that it messes up their internal organs. and people have been hospitalized and even died from rectal water injection.
Wrecked him. Damn near killed him.
Damn near killed him. And I didn't know this was a thing, but it's happened more than
we're
once.
keeping that in.
When I heard one story, I had to look if that was true, and I found 50.
Oh my
I was
god.
like, oh my god, this happens a lot. Don't
now
ride.
I have to look that.
So don't take a lie detector test.
Well, now,
and don't ride bitch on a fucking wave runner.
All right, well, I'm gonna say it's real. I'm gonna say what happened to them happened to them. I don't think it was an owl. I think you would know. I think they lived in Kentucky. They know what their shootouts about. I think there's something that cannot be explained. Whether that's an alien, I don't know. But I mean, they drew it, and like. Bob Lazar, we did the Bob Lazar, and he said a corona discharge has multicolored.
Yeah.
It has a multicolored tail to it. So, yeah, man, I think they saw it. I think they saw something they weren't supposed to. I think when you do that, the government puts you on a list, and they check you out. They check you out, all over. And I think they kind of just like chalked them up to like this was like mass hysteria. But the problem is like in mass hysteria, there's always deviation in the story. They don't have any deviation in the story. I kind of think it's real. I kind of think this is one of those instances where like they had a shootout. And, if you're a being that can distort time, well, then what's a bullet going to do?
Right.
Because there's no time. So I think it's real.
Okay. All right. Well, here's the thing. I do believe that there is extraterrestrial life. I honestly believe that to think otherwise is just foolish.
I agree with you.
If you start doing any kind of, and I love the shows about the universe and I'm such a snob on them too. I won't watch old ones because they're incorrect.
Right.
Because they change so much. It changes so much. They learn so much new stuff so quickly that if you're not watching the latest thing, you're probably being misinformed, or you're being underinformed. I shouldn't say misinformed, but underinformed. Because now they know like why this is and not just where it is. And so like I watch a lot of the stuff on the universe, and when you start grasping at just a small bit of the size and of the galaxy alone, let alone the universe, to think that this only happened one time, us, is crazy to me. Like
I agree.
It's mind blowing that it would be
It's almost
just us
crazier
alone.
To think that we're the only ones than
that there's not tons of civilizations out there. I mean, it is. It's actually crazier to think that we're the only ones. That would be such a phenomenon. You would really have like, are we sea monkeys? Right.
Are we in a simulation? Is
Right.
it like okay?
No, now there is, because there is that. There's a lot of theory about the simulation thing.
Yeah, but who's doing the simulation?
Right. And then it starts getting over your head, and then you start grasping at straws. That's why I don't like going down that road, because it doesn't lead you to viable answers you can explain.
Well, like when we were talking about string theory on the last one, you're like, I looked into that and my brain broke.
Right.
I got a migraine.
Yeah. I really tried to look into it too. I wanted to know. I wanted to understand.
But don't you think that like if you actually went to the police station, you went
Which
to the
is
county
crazy
sheriff.
to me. I think I'm in the kind of like it's some crazy shit would have to be happening for me to be like panic enough to go.
I never go to the police.
Right.
But if I went to the police for aliens, I had an encounter with an alien.
Yeah, right. Because I'm saying what I'm saying in my theory is that I do believe that there is life out there. Now, do I believe any of that life is advanced beyond us? Sure. Do I think they're advanced enough to make it to us? I don't know. That's a stretch, because there's one thing I do know about space is that everything is really, 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 really far apart.
But like we talked about it in Bob Lazar.
Mm-hmm.
The distortion of gravity and time.
Right. So you'd have to be so like, and we talked about how advanced you'd have to be. So
right.
Like it's possible to be way more advanced than us. And then it starts to become this dart throw of how did they find us? You know, because it's so vast, it's so ridiculous, it's so all over the place that to find a planet with us on it. Now, not saying that's never happened, that we've never been visited by extraterrestrials. Do I believe it was extraterrestrials in this case? That's a stretch. It's hard for me to say yes on this because...
Even though they're like from Kentucky.
Right. It's like...
And they know what... You live in the country.
Yeah.
I used to live in the country. All right, man, you know what's out there.
Mm-hmm.
I
can admit that I've been in my woods and been freaked out by shit I couldn't explain.
Like Foxfire.
There was a lot of things. There was stuff that was like, I thought it was something else and then discovered what it really was. Like we saw stuff glowing on the ground.
It's a 4-hour encounter.
Yeah.
No,
so
I'm
I mean,
saying,
it's a 4-hour
with these guys 4-hour encounter where they're shooting windows out.
3 hours of that could have been spent just being spooked, though.
Okay. All right.
You know, going,
I'll
where is he?
that.
Where'd he go? Where's he at? You see anything? Not yet. I think I saw something over there. You know, it's dark out. These people don't have, like, spotlights outside their house. There's no
motion light.
Right. And they were saying they're glowing, but if that great horned owl lived in a tree with foxfire on it, does he got some bioluminescence on him? Who knows? They like to live in dead trees and stuff like that. So, do I believe it's owls? I don't know. I don't know if it was owls or not. It could have been giant yellow eyes. They definitely have those. They definitely glow. If they had any kind of light and it shined on them, it would glow. So, and the way their heads move and they're round, it's freaky.
They do. They can go way.
And like I said, I've seen an owl run away injured. And the way they describe it is the knees didn't bend and that they waddled back. Their hips went back and forth when they were upright. When they were just moving, they said they got this weird locomotion to them where their hips swiveled back and forth, but their knees didn't bend. And I'm telling you, this owl kind of hopped 1 foot to the next. And it was like a hopping kind of deal. Like
it's hard.
With his wings out, so he kind of glided as he did it. You know, and they talked a lot about the glide. They were saying like we shot at the one in the tree and he glided to the ground. That sounds like a owl getting hit with some buckshot, you know, or some bird shot, getting peppered a little bit. Didn't kill him, but knocked him out of the tree, and he put his wings out to glide, and they don't see the wings because it's dark. Here's the thing about owls: they have down underneath their wings that keeps them from making a sound. So they're dead silent. They don't take off and flap their wings. You can't hear it. So if it's real dark out,
that is true.
So you wouldn't necessarily see that they pulled out their wings and glide to the ground if all you're seeing is their glowing eyes, or a dark shape dropping to the ground, just doing it slow. And then they said it scurried off, and it did that locomotion scurry off. And it may have even been flapping its wings as it ran, like the one that was hopping down my thing, and it kind of looks like it's going arm over leg, like a monkey would run on all fours. So in the dark,
like a silver monkey?
Like a silver monkey. But now that's the thing that throws everything off, is that they kept saying they looked like they were wearing like silver metallic suits.
Well, Jerry Seinfeld has this thing. It says in the future, everybody wears the same outfit. They're like, we're going with the silver suit with the purple lapel. Everybody wears that. And it's true. It always seems like in the future, everybody just wears the same thing.
And I just don't know if I think about it, and I think about a circumstance where Billy Ray runs out to go get water, and he thinks he sees something flash and go down in a saucer laying behind the thing. Now, did his brain just fill in the blank, and he saw the same thing that officer saw riding down the road, and it was just some meteor, and he mistakenly thought it was a saucer, or it burned up in the atmosphere just below the tree line, which would give it almost a elliptical.
I'm not going to fight that. I mean, dude, I get it.
So those optical illusions could play on him. He could have ran back in, spooked, said, "I saw a UFO." Now, they laughed him at it first, but when they heard something outside and they went to go investigate, the dogs barked. Now, I got dogs. I got 3 dogs, and they usually feed off each other. If anything happens outside, they fucking bark. They go crazy.
Okay.
And it could be anything. And half the time you don't even know what it is because they can hear it or smell it or see it, and you can't.
Right.
So his dog goes off. So they go outside to investigate. In their mind, Billy Ray's with him. This is aliens. So they're going to associate anything they see with the phenomenon he thought he saw, which was an alien spacecraft. So if they see something, they're like, "Oh shit, he was telling the truth. There is something out there." But they don't thoroughly investigate. They just see glowing eyes and they run back in the house. Now, they could, like I said, have their brain filling in blanks and be like, saw this little bit of an outline of it. And who knows if moon glow was shining on their feathers. That's another thing. If the moon was glowing on their feathers, they would get a silvery
it's
haze.
Clear. There's no light pollution.
So there's
no light
a chance for a silvery moon glow
in southwestern Kentucky.
And I think they kind of hyped this thing up a lot. And they said there's like owls get territorial. Now you'd think that they would have found a nest if it was the owls, but who knows? Because
they didn't find any trace of the aliens,
right? And you'd think if they blasted these owls, because at one point he claims that he shot one point blank, and it sounded like hitting a metal bucket.
Right.
But he may have hit a metal bucket.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're running around through the yard. They use a well. There's going to be buckets around.
Metal bucket.
And if he missed the owl and shot the bucket because it's the middle of the night.
He keeps trying to get water, and it's just like every time he pulls up, no water.
The aliens kept stealing my water. But I'm not saying that that's the case. I'm not really saying that it was Al. I'm saying that I think their mind was playing tricks on them at that point.
Yeah, and I can see that. You're out in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky.
And I can tell you firsthand that spooked owls don't just leave the area. They don't just take off and move. I can tell you that from empirical evidence of me sitting in the woods and many times coming up on barred owls, where one time I could hear the barred owl in the woods, and I was out birding at the time, and I was so I drive out on my quad a lot and go way out in the property, and then I'll just sit, turn it off and sit. Well, I heard one, so I drove down kind of towards the area it was, parked my quad, got off, and I was slowly walking up the trail because wherever he was close, and they're real hard to spot even though they're big because they're good at camouflage, and they're good at being quiet and not moving. So I'm sneaking through the woods real quiet, and I'm like, he's around here somewhere. And I swear, I look up, and he is literally 4 feet away from me in the branch just above my head. And as soon as I looked up at him, he just happened. He was looking down in the creek hunting, and he turned around and turned his head completely around, and just happened to turn around and look and see me at the same time I looked at him, and we both just kind of froze for a minute, and then he was and he took off, and he only went 15 feet to another branch and stopped, and then completely ignored me and started looking down in the creek bed to hunt for more mice. He didn't even care that I was still there. I spooked the shit out of him. You know what I mean? He was like, you saw it on his face. He got as shocked as we were both and he flew away. But then he just landed I could still clearly see he was maybe 15 feet he went and landed in the next branch. But then he kind of ruffled his feathers a little bit, and he twitched his head back and forth, and then he just kind of looked back down at the ground like.
Yeah, but you have a shootout with that owl. He's gone.
I've definitely run
Right?
up on them on quads, and they come up on the thing, and they take off flying, and they go to another tree, and then they just sit there. And then I've had them ride right back by me and land in the tree on the opposite side. So like with the quad running, dogs barking. Like I've come up on barred owls several times in my woods, and never spooked them to the point doing all kinds of crazy shit back there, shooting guns and everything. And be like, hey, look, there's an owl right there. They don't get spooked that easy. They don't take off like other birds do, where they'll just and be gone and not come back. So I do know that they got some balls on them. That great horned owl wasn't scared. If anything, he was hissing at me.
Do you think there's a for the family in Kentucky?
I think there is. I think it was a little bit of hysteria crept in.
Probably.
And one was convincing the other of what they saw, and it's the ears, the round head.
Yeah.
When you overlay their sketch over the great horned owl, the outline fucking makes sense. It's easy to see it. I don't know if I believe that either, because it sounds like a stretch too. It's just, I think, some natural phenomenon. I think they spooked themselves. They didn't know how to explain what they were seeing. I can't explain him getting grabbed by the head and them seeing that. I don't know what that was, but it might have been this owl taking a swipe at him. He might have been pissed because they were shooting at him or something. I don't know. They're pretty aggressive when they're being territorial. And like I said, they're not scared. They don't get scared like that. They're not they're not a spookable animal. There's certain animals that just don't get spooked by people. They're out there. They're not, like I said, we went up to Colorado one time. We were up on Pikes Peak, and there's mountain goats up there that are not afraid of you at all.
Yeah,
because
you're out of your element.
Yeah, they're big, and they're like, you don't scare me one bit, dude. Even though they only come up to about, at the shoulder at your waist, they're like no fear at all.
So I'm looking at that sketch now that you said that. Yeah. Yeah.
I actually saw somebody take a photo of a great horned owl and then take that sketch and slide it over it.
Really?
Yeah, and it's like, well, you can see it. It matches the outline pretty good.
Yeah, right. Because the ears could be, they're feathered
that stick up on top and look like ears. That's why they call them the great horned owl. And they said they were floppy.
Oh, I see the layover now. Oh.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stick with it though. I think they know their land. That they worked at TV and their radio. All they are is out in their land.
I feel that. I feel you on
that. So I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna say I think it's real.
Okay. Yeah. I want to.
And you're gonna say there's a natural explanation.
I think there is, and I hate saying it, but I think I'm sticking with that because, like I said, we got 100 acres.
Right.
Most of it's wooded. I know my land. I know my property, but there's still stuff out there that's like, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
Every now and then you get stuff that happens and you're like, what? That was weird. What was that sound? Never heard that before.
Right.
So, and plus I've seen we never used to have wild turkey. When I grew up, there was not one single wild turkey out in those woods. I promise you that. I spent most of my childhood in those woods.
Now it's
there's wild turkey everywhere. I could look out and see 25 in the field.
Right.
It's crazy. And then mink. I started noticing more mink around. Like I never
I didn't
saw
even know mink were in the Midwest until they ate my chickens.
I saw 3. I've seen 3 of them now. 4 of them.
I told Stephanie, we'll kill it. You could make a shawl And when people are like, not this one, it killed my chicken.
Right. This one was revenge.
All the other ones, yes.
This was justice.
This asshole killed my chicken.
Right. Yeah, so I've had something drug my chickens. They dug underneath the fence and yanked one out, and it had to be small, and I think it might have been a mink. So.
Yeah, and they're dicks about it too. They just suck blood.
Yeah, because they were all drug out.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like there's like no way a small animal ate 3 chickens.
Right.
So I think it was a mink. But that's the thing. It's like stuff changes. Biodiversity changes.
It does.
Even on my property, I've seen large animals.
It does.
Even
we were in Indiana for 10 years, and it definitely, I saw a bunch of different things.
Now, if I was out in my woods, the first time I saw turkeys, I saw them out in the middle of the field. That's one thing. But female turkeys, when they're on the nest, hide real good in the woods, and then when you get right on top of them, they dart out and run away. And like it scares the shit out of you. Now, had I come up on a female on a nest late at night and spooked her before I'd ever seen any other turkey out there, I would have been like, what the fuck was that? You know what I mean? I'd be freaking out. Like I saw something I can't explain.
Right.
It was a fucking large animal and it was running real fast and I've never seen anything like it. It was only on 2 legs. You know what I mean? Like, you never know what you could think in your brain about what you saw because they are fast. Them turkeys are real fast. So
yeah, I get that.
So like if I saw one, never saw one out in the field, and that happened to me, or I saw them at night or something like that, it would freak me the fuck out. I wouldn't know what to think because I'd never seen them out there before. So it's possible that there was something that they never seen. Maybe it was a barn owl and they were white and they were getting reflected off the moon, so they looked like they were glowing, and it wasn't even a goddamn great horned owl.
Did a backflip and give you the finger and fuck with your hair.
Right. Which is exactly what you'd think intelligent beings would travel all the way across the universe to do.
I would
peek in windows. That's the other ones that killing me. It's like, really? They just came around and did flips and peeked in the windows? Because for all intents, they don't sound like they even tried to like attack them or get in.
You said you punched the goat to get it to charge you.
Right? Well, I'm just a dumbass human now.
Right. This is a goat.
And this is a dumber goat, you know? And I didn't have to go far to punch that goat in the head. I just had to drive up the road to my brother's.
Dude, Quasar Burger tonight. What do you want to do? Quasar. Hey, why don't we go mess with some people in Kentucky?
Right?
Yes.
Okay, guys, we just built this advanced spaceship that can travel all the way across the universe. Where you want to go? Well, there's these fucking hicks out in Kentucky.
They're in a carnival. You know what a carnival
What do you want to attack them? You want to take them over? No. I just want to do flips around them and peek in their windows.
Oh, there it is. I guess we're inconclusive then, huh?
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. Because this has a ton of explanations, a ton of natural phenomenon.
Sure.
Also has a bunch of supernatural things attached to it too. Like maybe it's real, maybe it's not. So I'm fine.
Maybe it was an MK Ultra program.
Maybe they're all tripping balls. Which we should do that.
Yeah, there's an MK Ultra one that's out there we could do.
We should for sure do MK Ultra because, I'll cut it out, but the Unabomber.
Oh yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, here we are.
I'm glad you went the other route though, because then it sounds like I kind of was going with that too, and I really want to be on that side. I do, but
yeah,
my heart's just not in it.
Kind of glad that you went that route because I'm usually like a realist. Yeah. But this one, man, they stuck to it to the day they died.
Right.
All right, then. There it is. Inconclusive.
That's it. I think I'm Brandon.
And this is everything that's weird. When people ask you, what do you do for a living? Do you want to be able to tell them I'm a producer? Well, now you can. Go to patreon.com, search everything that's weird, and sign up. We'll list you in all of the show notes and mention you in every episode. Go to patreon.com to get started today. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. Second, there are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.